Isak to leave Newcastle. Here we go again. Let's get into this nonsense. Hi everyone, welcome back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day, and I'll not give you any guesses as to what it's about. Once again, we've seen all the racket, all the noise coming out in the media, perpetuated really by fantasy fans in dreamland of signing players, and it's all about our star centre forward, Aleksandar Isak. That's right. The noises are coming out already. I'm going to pick through what I think about this. There is a couple of different layers to this whole thing, but the main thing, this is all driven really by Liverpool and Liverpool fans and Liverpool noise and journalists and all this other crap who just want to fill pages and have links clicked and all the other shit that goes with it. Aleksandar Isak could be going to Liverpool for 116 million quid, right? Let's just unpack that one straight away, right? Aleksandar Isak has 3 years left on his Newcastle United contract. I saw Cundy and O'Hara talking about it. To be fair, before I go in 2 foot on them like I normally do, Cundy said Newcastle double their money. It's not worth doubling the money, Jason, where we lose what Aleksandar Isak will bring us. We are in the Champions League largely because of Aleksandar Isak. So you sell Aleksandar Isak, it costs you more money than probably that to replace him anyway, as well as a player, and you don't replace those levels of goals. So no, Newcastle won't cash in to double their money on this player. This noise is all being driven through the media, through the noise. Idiots like Danny Murphy, who is possibly the most boring pundit I've ever come across in my entire life. How this bloke has a job in the media is beyond me, honestly. He's like the manifestation of diarrhea if it was a pundit, just shite, spewing left, right, and centre. I don't get the guy at all. I really, really don't. He's talking about, there could be news on Isak soon. No, Danny Murphy, there's not news on Isak. Actually, opening your phone and swiping and seeing fan accounts talking about Aleksandar Isak going to Liverpool. He's not going to Liverpool. He's not going to sign for Liverpool this summer. Do I think Aleksandar Isak will leave Newcastle one day? Yes. Do I think it'll be one day soon? Possibly. But it ain't going to be this summer. And I'll tell you the reason why it's not going to be this summer. Newcastle United qualified for the Champions League, and that stopped Isak leaving this summer. If we hadn't qualified for the Champions League, I'd be behind this microphone now in a very, very different conversation than what I'm having right now with whoever you are watching this video. Aleksandar Isak would have left Newcastle. There ain't no doubt about it in my mind. It could have been Liverpool, could have been Arsenal, could have been Barcelona, could have been anybody. It would not have been staying in Newcastle because we wouldn't have had the Europeans' elite competition we're playing in next season. Because we qualified for that, and we won a trophy, by the way. Don't forget that, mainstream media. We had the most successful season we've had in the Premier League for probably since its conception. And these people are still taking our star players out and linking them to what they call big six football clubs, right? Now, Liverpool FC is an absolutely amazing football club, right? One of the biggest clubs in the world, one of the most successful clubs in the world, dripping in silverware. Some of the best players I've seen play in the Premier League have donned that red shirt, right? But Aleksandar Isak isn't going to go there this summer, right? I'll tell you the reasons why. You're not going to go there this summer because everything I've just said there a second ago. But also, Liverpool aren't going to be able to spend all that money. They really, really aren't. They've just dropped, 160 million quid on Wirtz. They've cashed in with massive contracts for Salah and Virgil van Dijk. Anthony Gordon's the one I'm more interested in terms of keeping an eye on that one. I can see him going to Liverpool before Isak does, because Gordon wanted that move last summer from everything that I'm hearing and seeing. And I think that, Liverpool might want that player, but they have to shift out some of their dead wood. Don't worry, though. I'm sure the PIF will come running to the rescue with 100 million quid for Luis Diaz or fucking Darwin Núñez or something to cash you out. And then you can buy our player, because they don't seem to see the conflict in that. Even though some people in the comments on a previous video, started to call me as a Newcastle fan entitled. Not entitled. I just don't think they quite understand the damage that gets done to Newcastle when they do shit like that. But that's a different podcast for a different day. But going back to the situation itself, right? Aleksandar Isak will be a Newcastle player next season. I do believe that. Clip that up. I do believe he'll be a Newcastle player next season. I'll tell you another reason why. It would be suicidal for Newcastle United to sell this player in this transfer window. It would send out a terrible message to all of the squad, to Eddie Howe as manager, who the club are very lucky to have, because if Eddie Howe hadn't done what he did last season, he would have, won a trophy and got us top 5. The microscope would be more on the people upstairs for fucking up the transfer plans and allowing that squad to rot and not have investment in new faces. Now, I have criticised Eddie Howe in some ways for some of the things he does, and I will still do that because I don't think any manager is without criticism or without flaws. Even Ferguson and Wenger and prime Mourinho at Chelsea had their flaws, right? But what Eddie Howe did last season saved the bacon, no pun intended, or them lot upstairs, because if he hadn't done that, the pressure would have been on them lot, not so much on Eddie Howe. But if you sell his star player, what kind of message does that send to the manager? After you haven't backed him for 3 transfer windows, and this window hasn't got off to a great start. Yes, it's early days. Yes, Newcastle may break late, take advantage of PSR and all that stuff, but you can't sell a guy star striker because he could possibly walk out the fucking door. And the shit I've seen Thomas Tuchel get already for a couple of ropey performances, if Eddie Howe's available, the media start beating that drum like they're beating the Isak drum right now. Mainstream media don't think Aleksandar Isak should play for Newcastle. They think he should be playing for a bigger club and a better club, right? And he may very well have been playing for a bigger club than Newcastle United. Now, Newcastle United is the biggest club in all of our hearts, right? But we know, we're pragmatic, we understand it, right? But Arsenal slept on Aleksandar Isak. Manchester United slept on Aleksandar Isak. Liverpool slept on Aleksandar Isak. Chelsea slept on Aleksandar Isak. They all looked at him at some point when he was at Sociedad. They all looked at him and thought, bit injury prone him. Not sure about him. Newcastle went and bought him for 600 million quid. Biggest transfer we had at that particular time. And he's been absolutely fantastic for Newcastle. So don't come at us mainstream media and say that we don't deserve this player, because all of your favourites slept on the guy and we spotted a gem, signed him, and now he's been one of the best centre-forwards the Premier League's seen in modern times, and arguably one of the best centre-forwards in Europe. I mean, Isak says this best when he just shakes it all off. He's not bothered. It's all noise. I've seen some great quotes from Keith Downey as well. I've had Keith on the channel before. Love Keith. He's a top bloke. And Keith had said Newcastle are in a strong position because they qualified for the Champions League. That keeps Isak at the club. It's easier to keep Isak at the club because Champions League is there. The trophy's there as well, which helps. The Champions League is all that we need, I think, to keep Aleksandar Isak at the club. But he'll want to see ambition. There is no doubt about it. And I think he will stay this season, as Keith says. But next summer, if Newcastle haven't showed ambition in this window and they haven't had a good season and they're not back in the Champions League, maybe next season will be the season we can seriously worry about Aleksandar Isak leaving this football club. I don't believe it's this window, but it could very well be next window, right? And who's to say he's going to go to a Premier League club? He might go to Barcelona, might go to Real Madrid, might go to one of the Milan clubs, Bayern Munich, you don't know. He could go to any club in the world if he has another season, next season like he's had last season. And if he doesn't think Newcastle are going to match his ambitions, he will go. But the same can be said for Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, Sven Botman, Anthony Gordon. All these players will start to question what the ambition is of the football club if we don't get our shit together and sign some quality players and show not just the manager who needs the backing and needs the players, not just the manager, the players, the star players that we have managed to recruit who have been brilliant, imperious in those black and white shirts and helped us get Champions League twice in 3 years, helped us get a trophy, the first one in 70 years. If we don't show those players how ambitious we are as a football club, they will start to look elsewhere. And a final point on this Isak thing, like I said, might sound like I'm having a mini rant. I'm having a controlled rant, is what I would say, like a rant in a safe lab room somewhere where the pressure is well monitored. I'm not going to blow a gasket because it's just noise from the mainstream guys for clickbait and all that stuff. And it's the other fans of the clubs who want this player so badly. And I can understand it because he's a brilliant football player, but he ain't going to go anywhere this window for me, not at all. But you would be naive to think that somewhere in Isak's camp, somebody somewhere hasn't just put a little cheeky little message out to a little agent or a little journalist here or there just to whip that up a little bit. Whip that up. Oh, Liverpool are sniffing. No, Liverpool have given us £160 million bid. Liverpool. All of a sudden, it goes out in the mainstream media and it strengthens Aleksandar Isak's argument with the club for more money. That's modern day football, I'm afraid, guys. You can love them players and you can think that they're holier than thou and they're completely uncorruptible and infallible, but that ain't the case. They've got these people behind them that are designed to make them money. Aleksandar Isak is a world-class player, and he wants to get as much money for being that world-class player as he can do. So his people will be doing every single thing they can do to get that out of Newcastle United. Now, Newcastle have had a really stringent wage budget. You've got to break that if you want to keep this guy. You've got to do it. Pay him 250 grand a week, right? Everyone's going, oh, can't do that, PSR. Oh, my gosh, Luna. Yes, that is true, right? However, you need to make sure you keep your best players, and he's worth 250 grand. That means you've got to get rid of a few players, in the background, maybe, kind of on the fringe players. I'm talking the Targets, the Longstaffs even, as much as, Sean's really worked hard for this football club. Players like that. Matt Target, 90 grand a week, by the way, Matt Target's on. Get rid of someone like that and use that extra money towards Aleksandar Isak's contract. I know what I'd rather have. Get rid of Target, 90 grand off the books. Get Isak 240 grand a week, job done. He's happy, but he's got 3 years left in his contract. I don't think he'll feel under pressure to do anything, but his people are trying to get the best deal from him, and I can understand that completely. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. This PSR thing is confusing as well, just to touch upon that. So I watched the Talk Sport clip there with Cundy and O'Hara, and they say Newcastle is still in danger of PSR. And when you looked at that table that came out from the Athletic a few weeks ago, we're not massively in the shit. Like Aston Villa are in more trouble than we are, and I think that's quite obvious now. People know that. But Kieran Maguire, who I've had on the show before, who's an absolute legend, love Kieran a bit. Kieran said we're not in that big of a trouble for PSR. And we can buy 260 million pound players and split the cost the way it's kind of amortized over years. We can do that, and not be in trouble. So all of these mainstream media, assumptions that we're struggling with PSR is bullshit. Because you got the guy who knows his onions about football fans comes out and says we're not in trouble. I believe him over I believe any of these guys who are just trying to stir up clicks and push the narrative of their own little top 6 red cartel favorite clubs that they love. So I would believe Kieran Maguire over any of those guys, no doubt whatsoever. But this is the problem when the clubs stay silent. They don't say anything. You've got to say something. You don't have to turn around and go, by the way, there's the books, guys. Look at that. Hey, we're in the green. Way, happy days. You don't have to do that. But just turn around and say, listen, we've been through some difficult times with PSR, but we're all right. We're in a strong position. We're in a good position. We're okay. We're comfortable with where we are. But nobody comes out of the football club and talks. And right now, it's because there is nobody to come out and talk about that shit. We've got an outgoing CEO who, unfortunately for him, has had bad health, and I wish him well. I really, really do. We've got a sporting director who's out the door, the second in the space of, 18 months. There's no senior figures who want to grab a hold of this at the football club and come out and say these things to stop the media, speculating and assuming and insinuating, making these noises that that reverberate out into the world of football and create these bullshit rumors. So that's something that the club have got to sort out quick as well, in my opinion. But Aleksandar Isak, he'll be a Newcastle player next summer. Next season for me, absolutely. Next summer will be a big test, depending on how next season goes. But Isak for me will start the season with Newcastle United. I'm firmly confident about that. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Touch wood, of course. I don't want to curse the football gods. Put a comment in. Lost my train of thought there. Put your comments in. Let us know what you think about Aleksandar Isak. Will he stay at Newcastle? Will he go? Are you concerned? Are you worried? Do you think this is all bullshit noise? Always like to hear from you. Like and subscribe. Keep it ever more. Get us to the next milestone, 11,000. We're about 400 on the way. Recommend us to family and friends. We'll be back with some more shows soon. Keep it ever more. Have a belter. See you later.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.